With the release of his debut posthumous album, Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, Pop Smoke opened the eyes of many to his music. Just over the weekend, social media has been abuzz with people taking a more wholesome and introspective look at Pop Smoke's work. And although he was really only in the music world for a couple of years, he was still able to make an impact. Welcome to the Bar for Bar podcast, and this week I'm going to be talking about the legacy of Pop Smoke. Before we get into that, aside from these podcast videos where I talk about random topics for half an hour, I also make reviews and track breakdowns and news videos. So if you want to see any of those, make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's get into the podcast. So, with the legacy of Pop Smoke, there's a few things to talk about. So we're going to talk about his history, I guess you could say, his sound, and really where he could have gone given how his debut album sounds. I'm saying sounds a lot, I guess. So Pop Smoke, aka Bashar Baraka Jackson, was born on July 20th, 1999 to a Jamaican mother and Panamanian father, and he lived in Brooklyn. He is most known for his New York drill sound, which was really made popular by Chef G, and he was kind of like the originator of it. But really Pop Smoke and Fivio Foreign were able to push it to where it is now. Like, most people would probably know of Pop Smoke or maybe even Fivio before Chef G, I'd say. So thanks to them, New York drill has gotten pretty big. So there's not a whole lot about him in his earlier years. I think when he was 16, he was arrested for drug dealing and was put on house arrest. And that's kind of where his music career began. So then in 2018, that's kind of where we first started hearing about Pop Smoke, musically. But he didn't actually release anything project-wise until, July 26th, 2019? So just under a year ago, he dropped his first mixtape, which was titled Meet the Woo. Now, what drew a lot of people to Pop Smoke, aside from his drill sound, was the fact that he worked with a lot of producers of UK drill. So that's obviously not something people in the States are typically going to go out and do. So that definitely got him attention overseas. And New York's such a melting pot of sounds, so it's always interesting to see what comes out of there. So the song that really got most people's attention and really kind of put eyes on Pop Smoke was the track Welcome to the Party. This was on his debut mixtape. And then a few months later, it was remixed twice. Once by Nicki Minaj and once again by Skepta. Now the Nicki one, it's whatever. Nicki's from New York, so she obviously is going to support New York artists, especially when they're popping, like Pop Smoke. But Skepta makes the most sense to me because UK drill, UK rapper, he also just fits the track a lot better, I'd say. But for me, the track that really grabbed me and made me start paying attention to Pop Smoke, or at least know of him, was Dior. And it's kind of funny because Dior has been on every tape that he's dropped. So it's been on Meet the Woo 1, it was a bonus on Meet the Woo 2, and it's a bonus on his album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. So it kind of makes sense that it's something that I know. To be fair, I didn't really care about Pop Smoke at first. What really made me pay attention to him was his voice because he has such a distinct voice. I think that the thing that made me really like go out of my way to listen to him, aside from the Joe Budden podcast, was the freestyle that he did on LA Leakers. Not because it was like an amazing freestyle or anything, but because he was able to be on LA Leakers, and someone that was seemingly unknown to me being on that show was like, oh, okay, well, maybe you got something to show for yourself. Yeah, I mean, with the first mixtape, it's very heavily drill influenced. But, I mean, to me, it wasn't anything special. Like, it was cool, but it wasn't something that I really listened to a lot. So, later on in the year, I think, like, maybe October, November, I don't know, at some point, I was listening to the Joe Budden podcast pretty consistently. And there was a point at which, I guess Pop Smoke had put out a snippet for this track, Christopher Walken. And this was before the track even had a name. But it was just so funny because Joe would put it on all the time. And it would just get me really hype. And that's what actually really pushed Pop Smoke into my mind, like, where I have to, like, pay attention to him. Because, like, just the chorus is so funny. It's like, how you gonna tell someone, send the Addy, we gonna slide? Like, you know how badass you have to be, or have to think you are, to be that confident? And just be like, hey man, just send the Addy, we gonna mess you up. Like, it's just a really funny thought. And I don't think he meant that in, like, a funny way. It just happened to be funny. Like, I'm pretty sure he was really serious about that. And that's the other thing that I really get from Pop Smoke. Like, everything he says it in a way that makes it sound like he's determined and, like, whatever he says is going to happen. So when he says, send the Addy, we gonna slide. Just send it. And honestly, he probably would have done it even if you didn't send the Addy. You know the vibes. Well, with that said, I mean, I still wasn't the biggest fan of Pop Smoke. I did listen to Meet the Woo 2 when it came out, and there was a few tracks on it that I really enjoyed. Like the things that really grabbed me, though, was that even, like, on tracks that weren't super drill, he still did a really good job. So it showed that he could actually do other things other than rap on drill beats and be super aggressive. Like the track, I think it was Element, where he just straight up sounded like 50 Cent. And, like, it sounds messed up, but, like, I'm gonna, like, I keep saying that, you know, Pop Smoke and 50 Cent are somehow related, because there's no way, like, there's enough similarities in their looks, like, mostly in their facial structure, but also just how they sound. Like, their voices are kind of close. Plus, like, since 50 Cent took over, like, basically the production of his album, like, it's kind of weird, you know? Like, for someone who isn't involved in Pop Smoke's life or career to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure this album goes good. Like, it's just funny. Speaking of that, so let's take a step back. His Meet the Woo tape dropped in February 2020. I think it was February 7th, 2020. And unfortunately, about 12 days later, I think it is, he was shot and killed in his Airbnb in LA. And it really feels like no one's doing anything about it. which is pretty shitty because, like, come on now. How are you going to just leave this on the table? Like, you can't just ignore it. Like, how are you going to let his murderer just exist? Like, that's kind of fucked up. But regardless, at this point, like, I forget if it was like right after or if it was shortly after, because Papa was already planning on making this album. Like, this album was already in the works. Like, we have footage of him and Quavo in the booth together. Like, they were clearly working on this for a while. But 50 Cent came up and said that he was going to executive produce Pop Smoke's debut album. And at first, everyone was concerned that 50 Cent wouldn't be giving us a proper send-off for Pop Smoke, and that this project was just going to be like a cash grab that we've seen with X's albums, unfortunately. However, it really does seem that people should have had more faith. Because with this album, it's so good. So with the release of this album, I pretty much threw out all sorts of expectations because I wanted to go into this album with a completely blank slate for Pop Smoke. Because this is really the last time we're going to hear of him. Like, unless they decide to milk him for more music. Like, this is supposed to be the proper send-off. This is the last album. Well, first and last album. So I went to this with an open mind. And I just like everyone else on the social media was amazed. I'm not going to talk about the album just yet because I have the review of that coming on Wednesday. But it was really good. And so I'm going to talk about it briefly at least. The direction that he took on this album was a slight departure from his previous work. So there wasn't as much of a drill sound here. There were a couple tracks with that, but it wasn't super drill. So it felt like with this project, he went for lack of a better word, a softer sound on some tracks. So like some tracks were more, I guess you could say love-ish songs. I really can't think of the proper term for it right now, but it's the kind of rap that I actually really enjoy. So it just hearing that kind of really surprised me. But given the variety and range that we got here, like, it really made me think about how, like, where he could have gone if his career had continued. Like, he very well could have stayed in the drill lane. Like, that's totally fine. Do that. But given that he can actually do well in these other lanes, like, I wish we could have gotten more of that before he passed. Like, on this tape, there are times where he just sounds like 50. And I already mentioned that before too, but like, given 50 Cent's career trajectory and Pop Smoke's, like, now I'm just comparing them because they sound alike and because 50 Cent's involved. But we know where 50 Cent is now. And we have like ideas of where Pop Smoke was going, because I think last week it was like revealed that he was trying to, like, he had auditioned for a movie. So he was clearly thinking of things outside of rap. So like, whether that led him to where 50 Cent is now or just into like that weird like rapper and sometimes actor category. Or maybe he'd end up like Ludacris, where he's usually an actor, but sometimes he raps. Like, there are so many options for him. And it really sucks that we're not going to see that. Like, sure, his rhymes aren't really anything special, but I think he still had enough of an impact that he really could have gone in any direction and people would have followed him. Like, it really sucks. Like, I don't know where he could have gone, but I do know that he was trying to not limit himself into just being a rapper. Like, I think I forgot who said it, but someone was reported saying that, paraphrasing, but that like he was trying to tell the youth to not go the gang route, and that he wanted to better himself. Because, I mean, we see what happened to him. Like, he clearly didn't want that for others. Like, he understands that he did that, and that was the route that he chose. But he was trying to, get out of it and do money the good way, or a less dangerous way, you could say. So it's sad. Like, I'm really bummed out. I'm not gonna lie, like, it didn't affect me as much when he passed as some other people. But given everything that I've learned in the last couple of months about Pop Smoke and listening to this album, like, it's hard to be like, just like whatever about it. Like, he could have done so much more. Now, I don't know what he's gonna leave for other artists or for the youth at this point. Like, it's still a little bit too soon. I'm sure he's gonna influence the sound of a lot of artists in New York specifically, because, like I said, he was really the one that put New York drill like at the forefront. Like, everyone was on that for a while. And since his passing, honestly, I feel like it kind of slowed down a little bit. Like, obviously, it's still a thing. It's still around. It's just without Pop Smoke being like at the forefront of it, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's just getting less attention. And yeah, it's like he he was saying he's the king of New York. Him and Westside Gunn were fighting for that, I guess. Not really fighting, but they were saying they were king of New York. It's such a bummer, though. Like, I don't know. Like, we could have seen a really impressive rise of the New York drill scene. Or we could have just seen him level up. But yeah, no, like, get higher up and just do his own thing. Because, like I said on this tape, like, he's so different, like, from his mixtapes. Like, you do get a little bit of it, but it's a completely different sound. It's, oh my god. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, because it's already, like, we're at the point where rappers are dying far too frequently. Like, when I was kind of like running through ideas on this episode, like, the thing that really stuck out was that Pop Smoke's starting to get included in all these RIPs. The most notable one for me, like, at least that comes to mind, is on IDK's song 495, where he just lists off a bunch of rappers who have passed. Like, he specifically calls out people like Pop Smoke, Nipsey, X, and it's like, damn, like, all these rappers are dying so early, and like either early or like right as they're about to Like, do something. You know what I mean? Like, Nipsey was just coming off a victory lap. Like, and who knows where he could have gone? Like, oh my God. Like, no, Nipsey still messes me up. I can't talk about that too much. But, like, Nipsey was doing more than just rap. And that's, like, he was trying to be just a good person in general. Like, he was trying to help everyone at that point. But, I mean, X, I don't know that he was really trying to better anyone just yet. But he was at the point where he was trying to atone for his sins. Like, he recognized all the shitty things he had done, and he was trying to fix it. And although I'm not the biggest fan of X, like, I understand that he had a huge amount of fans and people who still love X. And it's just like, damn, I wonder where he would be, like, if he was still rapping, like, or if he was still around. Like, because obviously he was in that emo rap sound, but where would he have gone given an extra 2 years? And that's kind of where Pop Smoke is now. It's like, we're going to keep getting more information about stuff that he was doing behind the scenes. Like, it's going to keep coming out. Like, that's just kind of how it is. But given that his career only lasted a couple of years, it's like, how, like, it's really hard to say where he could have gone or where he was going. I don't know. Like, this tape just really made me think about it a lot. So I wanted to just put my words out there. You know what I mean? Like, we could, like, if Pop Smoke had not died, like, I could easily see in 5 years him being one of the biggest artists. Like, not necessarily like the most lyrical, but one of the most popular for sure. Just because he had such a wide audience. Like, his audience at first was definitely more in that drill sound, but now it's like everyone. Because his album is more of just a traditional hip-hop album, you could say. Or a little bit leaning more towards that than his drill sound was. Yeah, man. It really sucks. And that's another thing that I wanted to touch on. Like, not these rappers, but a lot of times rappers get they get big pretty quick. And that's kind of what happened to Pop Smoke. But you still have affiliations that aren't necessarily the best. Or you can't really get out of that old life that you had. So it's like, it's almost like the first couple years of you being a rapper and being successful, you gotta be real careful because you don't know what's gonna happen. Like, until you can get to the point where you're completely separated from your previous life, if it was a negative life, that is, or like until you find a way to keep it separate, like, so that it won't interfere in your life. Like, it's like, you got to be real careful, and it sucks because it's like, I mean, I get it. It's hard to make those changes. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm famous now. I'm not gonna associate myself with all these things that I've been associating myself with for the last 20 years. Like, most people aren't gonna do that. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what we can do. Maybe we just need, well, it'd be cool if someone could step up and kind of guide these people who are coming up and are in these sort of situations. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything that I can do because I clearly have not had that sort of experience. So I'm just putting random thoughts out there at this point. But yeah, R.I.P. Pop Smoke, and I really hope that his legacy continues. Like, I don't want this tape to just kind of be swept under the rug. And I don't think it will be, because it's already on track to be like the highest selling hip hop album of the year. Like, I think it's it's projected to sell nearly 200,000 in the first week, which is insane given that, well, this is his debut album. And music in general hasn't been selling that great. Yeah, that's all I got to say about this. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Pop Smoke and how you feel about his album. I'm going to be talking about it on Wednesday, so I'm not going to say too much, or I didn't say too much yet, or I hope I didn't. But yeah, let me know what you thought about his album, what you think about Pop Smoke in general, what you think the sound of New York drill is going to be, given that Pop Smoke isn't at the forefront anymore. And yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And also make sure you tune in to our stream on Friday, because we're hosting our first ever trivia night. If you want to be a contestant, let me know. I will contact you if you say yes. That's all I got. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there.